Oh, hi, Shobhakar here, your host, your fellow host, and founder of Musicstaan podcasts. Welcome to the fourth episode of Behind the Strings. In today's episode, we have the very lovely Mr. Anupam Shobhakar with us. He is a Grammy nominated Indian musician, composer, multi instrumentalist, and also a classically trained sarodist who has produced more than 3 studio fusion albums and toured in multiple countries, played live in multiple countries with legendary musicians. I hope this podcast gives you a sneak peek into his life and his music. For more, please make sure to follow and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much.
All of that really Stevie Ray Vaughan. So, I got pretty prodigiously good. But then what happened is that's my earliest memory, of just the progression of, all the good music at home, listening to like, like if you're with your buddies, you exchange CDs,
Right.
everybody's got, and then you're listening to stuff. And this is way before streaming or YouTube. So you're basically all like, you come back from school. My mom used to make me a cheese sandwich and I used to put on, Surfing with the Alien, and just get immersed and then take the guitar out and just learn everything by
Right.
ear training, without actually delving into the theory of it, which became very important to me a lot later, but yeah, that's how it, and then if you ask any guitar playing kid in India, that's pretty much more or less of how it happens. It's
Right.
not like you're like 15 or 16 and you can go to Berkeley or Juilliard or Eastman School of Music or, reading, that was not the case. You just had to learn by yourself and you went outside and played shitty gigs, with
Correct.
bad sound and,
Correct.
mediocre.
Uh-huh.
You
And then
figured
the
it out,
treble
man.
and gain on the amplifier is switched to high, hoping that you'll get a genty sound, but all you
Exactly.
get is a trashy sound of some late 70s rock,
Really,
hard rock or
really
something.
back.
Jin, 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 jin,
Too
jin.
much feedback,
Right,
right?
right, right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just if you don't
I
switch down
know.
your volume knob, you are done. You're fired from the next gig. Why
But
there
you know
was
what I
noise?
do remember though? I mean, of course, I got lucky because I got to pursue and I still do like a pretty fulfilling, career in music with
Right.
a lot of writing, traveling, and working. But a lot of the cats that were coming up then, a lot of them quit music, but they were so good. Some of them, a lot of these guitar, you walk into some random show and have this guy shredding, and you're like,
Exactly,
who is this
exactly.
guy?
And what the heck is those fingers?
There was this
What is he doing?
there was so much of an ecosystem, which was very DIY, but it was supportive.
Right.
I was
Right.
really young, man. I was like, I remember playing Rang Bhavan, Independence Rock,
Independence
with a
rock,
big
yeah.
rock festival. Yeah, dude, I was 14, man.
Too old.
Everybody else is 30 years old. Yeah, everybody else is 30 years old. I'm a 14-year-old kid like playing Master of Puppets for like 5,000 people. So it was like, it was great though, while it lasted. And then, of course, I got very, very serious about music, and that's where the classical Indian music and my avatar as a Sarod player,
Right.
kind of came out.
Right. So you have this influence, and it's quite good that, and early musicians, I remember Guthrie Govan, one of my favorite players across the world. He once said that he
Yeah.
started playing the D chord when he was like 6 years old, and there was a vinyl table, and he saw as a kid that people are kind of viewing and listening to music in a way that it's not a joke. It's something serious.
Yeah.
It's not a hobby.
Dude.
He didn't pursue it
Yeah,
like that.
no.
He was like, why are people standing there like, there's some spiritual session going on, and like really absorbing Joe Satriani or Steve Vai, for that matter, or like
My house, man. If I didn't do my homework, my parents were okay with it. They didn't give a shit about me, but how I did in school. If I was not practicing, that's when I really got my ass kicked.
right,
Which
and that's good,
and
that's good. That's a good start. Today's
musician
kids,
family. Yeah,
exactly. Today's kid, if you see, they're like they got all these, Fender and Martins for their beginner starting. We got 5,000 rupee guitars, man, with terrible high action so high a truck can pass through it,
Yeah, dude. Yeah, but you
and
learn
the pressing down on the fret.
to navigate. Yeah. I mean, now I get all these, custom built guitars and fractals and all this
Hmm,
stuff.
hmm,
But
hmm, hmm.
the journey of so my first real guitar was when my dad, he went to Japan and he got me this Yamaha Pacifica type thing,
Pacifica, right?
with the Floyd.
Hmm,
Yeah,
hmm.
yeah, with the Floyd. It was one of those RG Ibanez type things that Yamaha was doing,
And the tuning
It was super
stability was
strat.
horrible as usual because Floyd Rose is.
Really. And dude, on top of that, because my dad kind of didn't think about it, it
Mhm.
was an expensive guitar, but he right-handed guitar. So
And
it
you
was
were
this
like, come
really cool
on.
guitar. Still have it. I love it. It's still on my wall. Of course, it's like but I remember when I took it to some luthier guy, some guitar tech guy in Bombay, he was like, dude, like your dad bought you this expensive guitar, but he couldn't think that you're left-handed, like, and
And you were
every time
like,
because yeah, because we really don't think of like pickup polarity and how
mhm,
string accents matter and how the neck curvature changes when you're
mm,
12 or 13 years
nah.
you just want the cool bar with a whammy bar and you can
So
make
they
all
can,
these noises,
pew!
all the dive bombs and stuff,
Right, right, right.
so but it was all learning, it was all trying to basically use whatever limited resources you have to
Mhm.
to get you to the next level. Like, I have some students now in the US, some really, and they're all like going to Ivy League schools for music. Some of
Lovely.
them go to like the highest levels and
Berkeley.
like
Mm.
already like they're like 19 and they have these like $5,000 Eastman guitars. And I'm like, you're 19 and you're a $5,000 guitar.
Not fair, man.
Just think about that for
Not
but
fair.
it is what it is. And when we learned, but it was definitely definitely came a dead end, with the
Mhm,
guitar at that point. Because in order to be, I was never going to go into Bollywood.
hmm.
I grew up around Bollywood. I grew up in Juhu. I went to a school with a lot of Bollywood film star kids. I grew up with people that were in that world. My brother himself is a filmmaker. I
Right.
taught at Whistling Woods in Subhash High School in
Oh,
Bombay
Whistling Woods,
for
right.
years and yeah, for years I've done lectures there for my 20s. It was so the choices started to become limited when I was even very young. I was 16 and I saw a lot of my friends, musician friends, they had to go into the world of advertising or they had to become
Mm,
jingle people or
jingle
they had to
composers, right.
become
Mm.
jingle composers, all Bollywood people,
Right,
and I
right,
just
right.
wasn't I had too much, virtuosic fire and uh a
Creative
hunger for
mindset, which is not
see
limited by these things.
actually the more the hunger to learn, which is what drives me every day even now. Like I
Right.
wanted to go as deep as I possibly can into to try to untangle the mysteries of music.
Correct. Right.
You know? I, I wanted to learn a counterpoint. I wanted to learn serious harmony. I
Right.
wanted to learn serious Indian music, and I was intrigued. My father gave me a ticket to go watch Ali Akbar Khan, Ustad Ali Akbar
Ah,
Khan Sahib, you know, in Bombay. And of course, later on, I became a representative of that Gharana. But I was, dude, you might be intrigued by this. So I was 16. Dad basically bought me like the cheapest ticket because he knew I was not interested. It was happening in NCPA Bombay,
NCPA, right.
and it was like it was like some 100 rupee ticket. You know, he's like, "Cause my son's not gonna go." I show up there wearing a Slayer t-shirt. You know, yeah. This is like Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma is there, Ustad Zakir Hussain, the who's who. They're all there,
And here
right?
is Slayer.
Asghar Bhosle ji, like
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
yeah, rain and blood t-shirt, and I'm there with a buddy, right? The guy that organizes an NCPA, unbeknownst to me, and I've known this uncle for years, happened to be the organizer of the show. And he happened to be the drummer of my band back then. He was his grandfather.
Oh my God.
So I didn't even know Mr. Rock, whose grandson played drums in my metal band, was into Ali Akbar. So he saw me and he was like, Anupam, what are you doing here? But I'm glad you've come. Here, take a front row. He gave me some crazy, the most expensive ticket. He's like, go sit in the front row. Go watch this. I'm glad you've shown up. Just go watch this. And there, this old man comes out. He was already 75. Ustad Ali Khan
And
Sahib.
your
Right
mind is
next to me,
fucked
like
by that time. You end the concert.
dude, kind of, right next to me is Zakir Hussain, Shiv Kumar Sharma, Hari Prasad Chaurasia,
Like
Kishori
trembling.
Hamonkar,
You're trembling
and
basically.
then me, Slayer t-shirt. Yeah, I'm like, no, actually, I was confused because I wasn't really part of that world then. So I was
Right.
like, what the fuck am I mean, I must be really good for all these guys to care. That's what
Uh-huh.
I thought. I told my friend, that must be really, really good for these guys to show up. And bro, then he starts playing. And those life moments where a switch happens
Like correct, exactly.
and you're never the same.
Hmm.
There's those life altering moments,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know? Like for me, Alan Holsworth was a life
Oh
altering
my God,
moment.
that
You
man
know,
is.
when I experienced the music of Debussy and Maurice Ravel, these were life changing. So watching Ali Akbar Khan Sahib play, I was 16 years old, was a life changing. I went home to my dad knew exact. He knew exactly what switches would be flipped. And I told my dad, okay, you are going to get me a Sarod, and I'm guitar tyag diya guitar. I'm going to
Hmm.
put it down. I'm
Hmm.
not going to ever touch guitar again. I want to be a Sarod player.
There we have something at the back.
Of course, the guitar came back when I combined both the instruments
Hmm.
years
Hmm.
later.
Right. Right.
But I went deep into the Sarod, deep. That's when Ustad Ashish Khan and Annapurna Devi ji and Suresh Vyas
Right.
and all these, I used to play her. In fact, I don't know if you noticed yesterday, Ustad Ashish Khan, my guru, passed away. The great
Oh.
Ustad Ashish Khan of the Mahar Gorana, he was 85 years old. He passed away.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah, he lived in California. And yeah, I used to go take trips with him to Mahar and learn in the same room because being left-handed, Ustad Alauddin Khan Sahib, his grandfather, the
The
greatest, he was
greatest maestro. Right.
guru to Pandit Ravi Shankar and guru to Annapurna
Oh
Devi
my
and Ali
God.
Akbar. So he was left-handed. So I used to have the opportunity to practice on his left-handed sarod.
So that's
You
a
know,
plus point.
Y- yeah. I mean, I was there. It was like practicing on Beethoven's piano, bro. It was like, yeah, it was at that level because
Sometimes it's
Ustad Alauddin,
uncontrollable. Like what the heck?
and those years of the deep Indian classical Hindustani Drupad, Dhamar, Khayal, on the sarod, that's what changed my life. So the guitar kind of came to a dead end because I made a choice then that Bollywood or the choices were limited and the live
Hmm.
music thing were not Western music or non popular culture, Bollywood or whatever you want to call it, or indie pop music was a thing. That was really, really limited, and I wanted more. You know, I wanted to go play at Shanmukhnad. I wanted to play at NCPA. I wanted to play at all these cool places, and I wanted to go deep into classical Indian music because, of course, it is in my blood as well. And
Hmm.
it was never a choice for me to make commercial music like that.
Right.
You know,
I agree.
and that's what
That's
really brought me to the yeah.
that's like the guitar player syndrome. Just
Yeah, dude, because ultimately, look, the guitar came back into my life, a few years ago,
hmm. Hmm.
and but if I hadn't made that decision, then I wouldn't have been doing the things I'm doing today. So it's almost like a butterfly effect.
I agree.
It because it's like, and these are sometimes, musicians, we have a fork in the road,
Correct.
you know, and it's like those alternate timelines can happen based on your choices.
Right.
So for me to put the guitar down and stop playing Angry Malmsteen's, whatever,
Black Star.
Black
Oh.
Star, whatever,
Ah.
or Black Star, whatever, Harvey on the Sun,
Hmm.
was like, okay, but then I have to learn Rag Darbari Kannada and Dhamar,
So there's
and it
that
kicked
blend
my
of
ass.
both the nature music.
Oh no, when I went classical, remember, there's a lovely story about Ramakrishna Paramhans that's important here. He mentioned that, when he wanted to study Islam, he became a complete Muslim. He
Correct.
lived like a Muslim. He put his beard out. He read the Quran. When he wanted to become like he wanted to study the Vedas and the Shastras, he totally became that person. When he wanted
Hmm.
to study Christianity, he totally became a Christian. For me, to half-ass it was never a choice. When I
Right.
became that classical musician, I completely became that classical musician. I became Nikhil Banerjee at that point.
Because
I
there's
lost
no
all my
like half of this and half of that. You have to be invested into
for
fully,
me,
100%.
for
Right.
yeah, me personally, because I have that type of
Right.
addictive, immersive personality.
Right.
And then I completely forgotten about the guitar. And also, Soparna, you have to realize that as a guitar player, musician yourself, and this is a slightly technical thing,
Sure.
Indian music is on what we call just intonation. Western music as a tuning system is based on equal temperament as a tuning system.
Right.
So the way your pa da ni sa sa ni dha pa ma ga re sa is tuned is very different from the way a guitar and a
I
piano are
agree.
tuned in
Right.
terms of class.
Right.
So when I started to take Sarod lessons, I realized that my first teacher, Suresh Vyas, my Gurana, used to always be like, "Tumhara gandhar chad jata hai." Your ga is a little
Hmm.
sharper because
Ah,
the guitar it's basically based on Bach changed the tuning systems. You
correct.
know,
Right.
S- to have the equal temperament because it was based on what we needed on that time in European music because the Greek tuning systems are closer to us as an
Right.
Indian music. The older tuning systems or the Makam system or the Dastaga
So
system,
basically that came back,
the from Turkey.
or it kind of has some of inheritance of some sort. It connects somewhere.
Well, well, Western music tuning systems that are always changing in the West, especially talk about classical music or talking about modern classical music or orchestral music. Giorgi Ligeti, composers like him have used different tuning systems. I use different tuning systems when I write. I was part of a Sarod concerto where we use these different tuning systems. But Indian music is always based on a very particular system. In
Right.
fact, there's this book by this great composer educator by the name of Walter Alaudin Matthau. It is called The Harmonic Experience. It's a
The
lovely
harmonic
book.
experience.
I would really recommend it. Yeah, by Walter. I'll send you a link. All your listeners and viewers, if they're serious musicians,
Sure,
I
sure,
would
sure.
really recommend it. Yeah, it's a great book on tuning systems and especially the tuning systems of India and how these pure tuning systems are a product of the natural evolution of, say, how the frequencies and the cycle of fifths and so on and so forth move.
Right.
How the vibrational frequencies and how the pitch classes are born. So you have you have the tonic, then you have an octave, and then the fifth, and then the third, and then
The
and the major
intervals come into
seventh,
play. Right.
and what is known as the harmonic series.
Right.
So when I started studying Indian music, my first teacher being a great musician, Sarod player, a student of Annapurna Devi, also a physicist. He was an
Oh
IIT
my God.
physicist, and he really got into these things for me. And I started to understand why tuning systems are important, and that's because when see if you're talking to some kid that's growing up in a Khan Sahib family, where it's like literally you learn from your dad, your uncle, and he says, now I'll speak in Hindi now. He says, "Beta sur mein gao," you know, or in Bengali, "Tumi shure gaicho na." What does that mean? Because you just hear the note but when you're dealing with two tuning systems, the way I was being a guitar player playing Western music, when I start to hear that Gandhar on the Sarod
And
or
then the
the
classical
flat
side of it.
second or the natural second,
The ear is pulled into a completely
yeah,
different direction.
what you realize really soon, it's not the phrases or the actual material you're learning. It's the actual intonation that you have to pay
Correct.
importance to because Indian
Correct.
music being being a melodic and a rhythmic system and not a harmonic system in the way we understand. It's
Right.
not based on a system of triads. You know, you have to you realize that every raga has this is why the music is special. So when we say we have 21 shrutis, 22 shrutis, I was encouraged to learn all those shrutis. So now when I start teaching that music, that's the first thing I teach. That say from C to D, to D flat or C sharp, you have these many microtones, then these many
Correct.
microtones, then these many
Correct.
microtones. And
Correct.
all of these Arab will have a different flat second. Todi will have a different flat second. Multani will have a different flat second. Gandhari will have Darbari will have a different flat third. And especially when you're playing a fretless instrument,
So that's more
all of this becomes even more
control
apparent.
and more.
Yeah.
semitones and microtones. You have to play all the intricate things. You have to take care of. One slight bend, and you're out of no the entire track.
And
Soft,
it's
some
very
sort.
scientifically defined. It's yeah, and it's very scientifically defined. It's not
Correct.
up in the air. It's not like based
Hmm.
on those notes they have to be hardwired and burned into your memory.
Hmm.
So that's why Indian music became so important to me because that really taught me about tuning systems the way I hadn't thought about before.
Right.
And yeah, it was like almost like a 20-year journey with the Sarod.
Can you send me the link of that book you recommended? Can I buy a hard copy of that?
Do you
Is it
want me to
available
say?
in Amazon or something? You can email me later on. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean Amazon India, I haven't checked because
Hmm.
but over here it's definitely available. I'll send you a link. Yeah. It's
Sure,
you should
sure.
really get into it because he also likens what the most important thing for me as a composer is what he likens. So everything basically a melody and a rhythm are not two different things.
Right,
They're actually the same thing if you
right,
think about it. If you take a little sine wave,
right.
if that is just going da, and if you start to shorten it, it'll become da 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 da
Correct,
da
correct.
da
Like
da.
groupings of the notes. 16th,
Yeah, you will
32nd,
start.
64th, 128th. Everything
But if you
compresses.
yeah, but if you elongate it, it's just one long note.
Correct. Exactly.
Still, as it occurs in nature, melody and rhythm are literally the same thing. The pulse,
Correct.
the if they're even if like you're sampling on like a DJ style thing,
Hmm.
if you take that rhythm and you really elongate it and make it slow, it'll turn into a note.
I
So
agree.
what Walter basically did was that then he started to analyze. Okay, so if you take C, what is the actual if you elongate the C or if you shorten it, what are the beats that are forming? If you're taking an E, so he found E is a 5/4, a 5 against a 4. A
Right,
G is a 3 against a 4, or like a hemiola rhythm, you know? So these are very interesting tools and colors and palettes as a composer, especially to use, because then you can start thinking like that in creative music. So a
right,
lot of my records were very influenced by thinking harmonically, not just on traditional techniques like counterpoint and voice leading and modulations and like more of a jazz approach, which I love. Which I have a background because I studied piano for 8 years with one of the greatest pianists of the world, Santiago Libson. He's been one of my
oh my
teachers.
God.
Uh, yeah, he's a great Brazilian pianist, and he's the one that really taught me how to write for piano. And he's a great jazz player. In fact, he's featured on my new album as well. So they're the traditional methods, and then they're looking at it through other tuning systems that influence the way you write and play.
That's incredible. To even like before understanding, like digesting it, understanding, okay, like everything has a reason. It's been built into using science and not, it's not bluff. Somebody woke up one day and chose EADGB as a standard tuning of a six-string beast called as a guitar. There's a
Oh, that is
researched.
very interesting. Yeah, well, that is really talk about the guitar. It's really cool. In fact, I had a friend over who's a phenomenal Brazilian guitar player, composer. He's making a name for himself. His name is Ezra Gray, and he works a lot with this guy Angel Vivaldi, who's a pretty well-known
Oh
shredder.
my God.
Yeah, Angel
Angel
and we
Vivaldi, really? Oh, that guy is.
yeah, he actually doesn't live very far from me, and like we've all from the same sort of musical scene here. So we were talking about the same thing. We were talking about tuning systems, and like the guitar. Why is because I mean, and you're a guitar player. What's the worst thing about tuning a guitar? The
The G
worst.
string.
The G and the B string. The B and the G. Perfect. So a true guitar player will say that. It's because if you think about it, from E to A to D, right? You have fourths,
And that one is an
right? B.
interval of third, major third.
Yeah. Why? Which
Exactly.
idiot thought of because we're always fighting the B string. The violin is tuned in fourths and thirds, in fourths. The cello, depending, can be tuned in fifths and fourths. You know, the piano is tuned chromatically, obviously. But
Yeah.
why the hell does the guitar suddenly have? It's because the history of the guitar was never as one of a solo instrument. Like you were not supposed to play these scales and arpeggios.
You weren't
Back in the day,
supposed
the
to be
day of the
Steve Vai on a guitar.
but really, yeah, that's why like Alien Love Secrets makes so much sense because it is, or an
Alien,
Anupam
re-
Shobhakar, like
aliens really love secrets.
yeah, they do. Or like the kind of stuff that, with these type of, it's because
Right.
back in the day of bards, the back in the day of the English bard, it was basically a smaller instrument that was played in taverns, drinking houses, where
Tan
you
taran
played these.
taran taran ta.
So for that, it was all bar chords.
Right.
So the chords with that B string, the G to B being the third, makes complete sense to play simple bar chords while accompanying yourself singing. So it was an accompanying instrument, and the instrument that was more of a solo instrument was the lute. You had Bach that written
Right.
for the lute. Classical
Right.
composers had sort of written for it. Not as much. But the guitar was a very basic, a traveling minstrel kind of an instrument where you sang songs about the kings and the queens and the great battles in the English countryside. But these tuning systems affect how we play now. That's why if you think about Alan Holdsworth too, Holdsworth for a lot of his things, he started to tune in fourths.
I agree. Right.
But
Weird
because
as compared to when
yeah,
we study about the normal tunings
there you
of a
go.
particular instrument.
Because our muscle memory is now
Mm.
like you've spent so many years fighting that B string, now you can't unfight it. Because you're so used to that little shift.
Right. Right. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay. Now half a step up.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree. Really, that's incredible. Like when we trace back the particular every instrument for that matter, any stringed instrument, if it's a sitar, sarod, mandolin, whatever it is, everything has a history and science behind it. It's not just, as I said, someone woke up and chose, let's put it the G and the B string in a major third interval. It doesn't happen like that. It's situated in a different mess. So recently, I'm
I
into a
mean,
lot more
necessity.
metal.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
of course.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
in kind of recent times, like recent in the sense in the last 2-3 years after the pandemic ended, I was into some progressive music, of Pliny, and then bands like Periphery and all that stuff. So some of their particular songs, and most of them use low tune guitars, 7-8 string. You know about them, and they use all this drop G, drop A stuff. And I'm like wondering, and I'm saying, how the heck do I detune my 6 strings now? Because back then I could afford only one 6 string Yamaha guitar, which was like an HSS
Yeah.
configuration with 5-way terrible picking switch up. So
Yeah, me.
I was like wondering like what, okay, how the getting the tone, like okay,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
fractal XFX 3. Let's look at the price. And I'm like, okay, thank you, goodbye. I don't have 1.5 lakh rupees now to spend on XFX. But
Yeah, especially
and
if you're Indian and yeah, it's hard.
exactly, and the shipping charges from there, like holy crap, leave it. I'll buy an
Oh,
Ibanez gem in that
awesome.
price, and the shipping charges are so high. So uh,
Yeah.
first time I kind of look at this model metal, what they're doing. Like some modern progressive composers are insane. Like for example, Pliny, intervals, R and Marshall, and then all these guys. And if you like, I listen to it, I'm like, the guitar is singing only the modern eras, but before also it sang, but in context to a song. But now, like a long back, I may be wrong, but Indian music was mostly instrumental at a certain point in time. People respected that. A jugalbandi of instruments going on,
Yep.
tabla, sitar, people are sitting. Of course, there was vocals, but there was a balance between the instrumental music scene and the vocals accompanying each other.
Let me
Slowly,
let me stop you there. 1 second. Let me interject. I don't want to break your flow.
sure.
But
Sure.
actually, just historically to put that into context, it was actually the other way around. It was mostly vocal music.
Mostly
Instrumental
vocal
music
music.
as a genre, mostly vocal music. Our history, our Indian music history is vocal music. In fact, even when
Okay.
you study sitar, sarangi especially because it's closest to the human voice,
Right.
is you're always taught by singing. And in
Hmm.
Indian music, we always say Gayan Pramukh.
Gayam Pramo.
Gayan
Okay.
Pramukh. The voice is always at the
At the
highest pedestal.
pinnacle, right.
is the pinnacle. Even the tabla players or the great pakhavach players or the great mridangam players of the south, even when they're learning from their teachers when the teachers are singing bol padan to them or singing the tabla bowls to them. Da din dir da din dir da ka da din da 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 din din la la la. So he's never playing for you. He's always singing you the
And
composition.
we are translating it onto the
I
instrument.
don't remember. Yeah. Very few times, maybe in a very advanced stage, did my teacher ever sit with the instrument with me and play together.
Right.
Most of the learning was he's singing, I'm picking it up. Because it does two things. It gives you an originality of voice. So because you're
Right.
not doing the monkey see, monkey do, you're not trying to copy his fingerings or his style or his mannerisms or his tone. Or like, a good teacher does not want you to be a carbon copy
Correct.
of them.
Exactly.
They want you to have originality.
Your own
So if you look at
signature.
Alauddin Khan Sahib, yeah, Ravi Shankar was his student, was a sitar player. Ustad Ali Akbar Khan, his son, sarod player. Annapurna Devi ji, daughter, surbahar player. They all played different instruments, but Baba taught all of them together by singing. Now, even in that tradition, if you go beyond instruments, when we say instrumental music in sitar and sarod, we generally tend to think of it as a very antiquated, like this, it's been around for centuries. The instruments don't look, but one has to realize that the modern sitar and the modern sarod is not even more than 100 years old. It was Ustad Alauddin Khan himself that completely reshaped the sarod. And
Right.
there's plenty of articles and Wikipedia pages and every academia, it's all there. Because
Hmm.
the sarod itself was quite a primitive instrument before him, you know? Got strings, no sustain, very metallic, very close to the Afghan rabab, very folksy instrument, you
Right.
know? But because Alauddin Khan Sahib studied with the great Drupad Senia Gharana, Miatan Sen, that family,
Oh, wow.
with
He.
Veena players, they were all
Right.
majestic. Alauddin Khan needed an instrument that could have that kind of range. So he increased the scope of the instrument, he put more strings, he increased the size of it, the sustain, and it was fully capable of handling all of the nuances from the Alap Georgiala to the crazy compositions and the guts to the super fast things to the super slow things. That was not the case, even with the sitar. So
Right.
they're relatively modern things. And before that, even 100 years before that, it was vocal music. So that was always at the forefront.
Okay.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry. Yeah.
no, I'm surprised even because I've heard certain musicians from India, from even abroad, people say that all of the syncopations and all the modulation we get using different time signatures in particular music. For example, you're playing gent, you're playing in 13/18 or 7/4, 11/13, whatever it is, and you're thinking like, how am I grouping these particular notes into a particular bar? Is it going on with the time signature? Is it going off the drums, the bass? And maybe if the vocalist is angry and screaming in the front, is it going well with it? So every particular instrument has to sit in that particular mix really well. And I've heard those musicians say that all of these somehow, you know, trace back to Indian music to some sort.
Have you
Because
checked out my trio? It's called Iron Axis.
I still
It's
haven't.
actually well, it'll actually answer your question.
Hmm.
It'll completely answer your
Right,
question.
right, right,
Uh, well, I'll put it like this. They say the history of Jen, it was some Indian guitar player in Delhi or someone that initially came up with the idea. This is way before Periphery or Animals as Leaders, any of these bands. There was some guy in Delhi that was supposed to be like the godfather of gent, Indian guitar player. I don't remember his name. I think it was Sumit Ramchandran or something. I don't remember his name. But
Sumit sir.
one of those guys. Yeah, one of those guys that was really messing about with lower tunings, with extended range guitars, and these type of odd time rhythmic groupings and the syncopations, as you mentioned. So if you check out my trio, Iron Axis, it's because I have a background with Indian music and of course with Western music. So I incorporate all of those Carnatic rhythms, all of those Hindustani rhythms in a gent sense. It's all there. And then of course the Ragpuriya Dhanashris, but it's not fusion, man. It's metal.
It's metal.
When I was featured in Guitar World last year as a tribute to Eddie Van Halen.
Right. Right.
They put me. It was a big deal for me. Eddie was
Hmm.
one of my heroes, and to be
Right. On the
featured
same page,
in
yeah,
magazines
it's
that with the magazines we used to buy from like the paper wala, to have like to have.
huh.
But it was approached like because this Kiesel is an 8 and 7 string, and um that even when I'm teaching a lot of these rhythms to some of these great gent drummers, some of these world beating guys like Alex Cohen, who's been playing with me and he's played with all these guys, I will always sing them in Konakol, these rhythms. I'll give them the
Konakol.
charts, like a
Right.
full chart.
Hmm.
Sing it out in Konakol. If you study Selva Ganesh, if you
Like
study Vico
Takata
Vinayak Rao,
Takademi.
yeah, if coming up with gent rhythms is
Hmm.
one of the easiest things in the world, Of course, you should know how to turn it into a metal thing and
Of
not into like a
course. Right.
Shakti thing, but it's there. And the seed material, because again, Indian music is so much based on melody and rhythm for more than 1,000 years. It's an incredibly sophisticated way to look at melody and rhythm,
I agree.
which the West didn't have for ages, man. Everything was simple 4/4,
Hmm. Hmm.
or 5/4,
Everything was
or
Taylor
like
Swift.
a 6/8, maybe, a Mozartian waltz, maybe, but these crazy time signatures, this is a very, very Indian thing. We are good at that. So one of the things my band Iron Axe is doing, and then we ended up having a huge California tour. We're going for NAM next year, so we're gonna be
Nam, right.
there. We're invited for that. Yeah, and I'll be playing the Whiskey A Go Go again. The iconic with the
Right.
band. Everybody wants, yeah, everybody wants to know how we write this music. How I'm writing this music, because they don't have that Indian background. So it helps to study this stuff. And now even in Berkeley and stuff, the music of Selva Ganesh, some of the records that I did with the guitarist composer Joel Harrison, a
Joe
record called
Harrison.
Multiplicity, and another. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's that stuff that they're studying that to see that you can actually take all these really extended, non-linear and compound rhythms and really expand the scope of being a Western composer, whether you're writing gent or you're writing some classical music or whatever. Man, use it in hip hop. I don't care. You know. But yeah, I mean, so if you take out if you check out Iron Axis, you'll hear like you will especially hear it because being from India, you'll be like, oh, I hear what Anupam is doing there. Because it's all of that is encoded into us.
Right. Right. It's in our DNA of some sort. And especially in Calcutta, we have in pujas and all, we have these dhakis
In
do
this
stuff, and if we hear that, that's gent, that's metal. Dhakis are really metal, man.
and every super metal, dude.
Exactly.
They'll give
Exactly.
they'll
That's
give Dave
metal
Lamar.
as that's
Yeah,
metal
they'll
at,
give
at
Dave
its
Lamar.
fucking best.
Absolutely, dude. And it's trance like, it's mesmerizing, and
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
really gives you that sense of power.
We don't
Da,
need
da,
any
da, 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 da.
we don't need any compressors over that. The dynamics are so perfect. The attack and release is so good.
Those
There's no compressor
those
required.
Hartleys when they wear they wear the peacock feather and they're dancing
Hmm.
around those drums, dude. That's like the most metal thing ever.
Exactly. 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 And with perfect rhythm and with
Totally.
perfect time signature, dancing around. Not easy. And that
Yeah.
5 billion tons weight of that particular thing, they're kind of like bent.
Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
you India's so like it's impossible. Just like it's impossible to describe Indian food to our people outside India. It's impossible to describe Indian music to people because, like, for example, last year I was in Rajasthan, okay, and I was actually traveling with some musician buddies, some renowned musicians, and we were just kind of having some days off, and we were like chilling in the desert and stuff. And I was recognized by a bunch of Manganihars, the Rajasthani folk musicians from the desert. And they saw me in the crowd, and one of them, like, I guess he was a lot into social media and YouTube or whatever, he figured out who I am. So he invited me to come and sit with me, on stage and like just enjoy the performance because I don't have my instruments with me or anything. But when these guys started singing, man, like, dude,
That's
forget Freddie Mercury, bro. Forget the guy from Dream Theater, whatever his name is, James. It's like this is another level, you know?
I
You
agree. It's
know?
a different world.
Yeah. So it's like, when people from the West think like Indian music is butter chicken and chicken tikka masala, or Indian
Shut
music
up.
is exactly right, and or Indian music is just Ravi Shankar, which is I get it, but no, man, there is like every corner of the country. Had the folk music is of another level.
In fact, I'm most recently into a band. It's from Bangalore. These guys not that popular. I'm mostly sure you've heard of them. It's Project Mishram. There's a band called Project Mishram.
I actually have it. You should send me a link. Yeah, I'll check it out.
They
Yeah.
blend Carnatic with gent.
Nice.
Insane.
It's nice.
Absolutely insane. And the vocalist is a beatboxer,
Yeah.
and all these tak nakadin nanadin takadinadum takadinadum takadin nana. So I was like hearing, I was like, and the guitar is following it. I'm like, what?
In fact, you bring up Bangalore. I'm actually playing 3 festivals in Bangalore on the 11th, 12th, and 13th with the
For the
great
Bandland?
for the Beer Haba Festival, the Bangalore Beer Haba. It's the Bangalore Festival. It's happening
Beer
all over
Haba.
the and it's
Right,
outdoor and with like a
right,
lot.
right.
It's happening all over the city, and I'm playing three night after 3 nights in a row with the great Swami Selva Ganesh, the Kanjira
Oh,
maestro.
Selvagans. Oh my God.
They're very good friends, and we've recorded, toured, played together for years. And yeah, with my double neck and with his son Swami Selva Ganesh, we actually did a new record. It's coming out next year with AGS Recordings, which has Mike Stern and John Schofield and all these great players on this. So I'm on the same label as these guys. In fact, yeah, this actually, where it go? Can't find it. We just had an album that came out this year, and that has Selva Ganesh's son, Swami Selva, incredible percussionist, incredible kanjira player. Him and a whole cast of stuff. So I'm bringing some of that music to Bangalore
I
as
love it.
because you just so yeah,
Absolute
yeah.
insanity that is. And how is it like working with these kind of more or less like legends basically?
It was learning experience, of course. That's the first thing for me. But I'm also like somebody that walks into a room with whether it's a studio or the stage with very defined ideas. Being a
Hmm.
band leader, so like my chart's always ready. The exact music, the way I hear it, has been defined, and that I've learned from years of experience working with great musicians. Don't waste
Hmm.
their time. Don't waste your time. Get out of the way. You know,
And don't
have
increase the
your
studio expense per hour.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have a great studio, so I'm not really worried about that. But
Hmm.
it's but even then, it's expense, right?
Hmm.
But so the idea is to have your musical ideas really defined, to know exactly what you want from these cats because they'll give it to you, and they're in that zone that you don't want to fuck around. You want to make
No.
sure that every
Hmm.
good to go, and so that's when you like sort of earn that respect.
Sure.
And we actually covered a Shakti piece, Le Dance de Bonheur, written by the great L. Shankar, the great violinist.
El Shankar, right.
So I'm really proud of that because we're gonna send it to him, and we're gonna send it to John McLaughlin as well.
Oh my God.
So really, really looking forward to that. Yeah, yeah, you know.
And Shakti as a
But
thing is it's just out
yeah,
of comprehension.
again, talking about early music influences, a big reason for me to learn Indian music was not like, yeah, of course, Ali Akbar Khan Sahib, but when I heard Shakti for the first time, I was like, dude, if he can do this on the guitar and he's British, I'm
I
gonna
can
do
do
it.
it too. And the first
Yeah.
reaction anyway to this kind of music is like, what the fuck? What is happening?
I mean, I don't know if you caught them on tour, but they were here last year, and John is 81 years old, 82 years old. He'll still run circles around some 20-year-old guitar players, man.
I
He's
agree.
still
I
got the
agree.
chops of
I agree.
his chops are next level. 82
I
years
agree.
old. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. Right. He can basically play anything on the instrument.
yeah. He's free,
Mhm.
you know? And it takes a long time to become free like that. But it's like he's still so sharp. The cognition is right there.
Spot on. As it should be. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, healthy lifestyle, does a lot of yoga.
Hmm, 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 hmm. I agree. That's lovely. But maybe the last question I would have for you is, from years of working with so many artists and many music companies and uh, engaging with so many different ideas, creative sides. So, uh, from the day you started playing in your home and so far you've come here, which is a big journey and incredible by itself. Um, Given this current situation in this world where AI is coming in, technology is a development, continuously develop into a certain sense. Music is happening, but more terrible music is happening than good music. Um, and I define it as good and terrible music because I hate pop music. And but if a, for example, 20-year-old or maybe a 16-year-old guitar player starts and thinks that, you know, for the rest of my life I'll be a guitar player, just tour around the world, play in venues, practice, understand the hell out of the instrument, and make a living at the same time. What advice would you give to such a person?
Wow. Get a real job. No kidding.
End
Uh,
of the podcast.
so so inspirational, Anupam is. Uh, no, no, no. I'm kidding. I kid. I'm sorry to all the listeners and viewers. Here's what I'd say, man. Just the way you described it. You said just the way you described it. Um, first things first, understand your instrument. I know that was the timing was perfect on that. I know. uh, Here's the way I would think about it. Just like the way Soparna you described that, it's okay. So one of the things that ends up happening when you get really busy in life with, your work commitments, when you're making money, you're traveling, you're touring, you're working with all these cool musicians, recording venues, all that stuff, is that your practice and your learning. Mechanical practice, even might you can keep it up because it's a functional requirement. You just need to have your, what they call maintenance chops, in the
Ready.
jazz
Uh,
uh thing, Frank, is that you need to have, you're ready to go every day. But the idea of sitting down with musical problems and trying to learn something new, whether it's tackling a jazz standard. Remember all these gent guys too. Jazz is a big thing, jazz harmony, and especially with
right.
animals as leaders. Tosin is really into that.
Hmm.
So it's really
He's wild.
important
I
to
saw him
keep.
live. They came to Calcutta just a few months back.
Yeah, that band's they've been doing it for so long, man.
Hmm. Exactly.
And
Very
it's
long.
yeah. So it's like if the luxury of having the time to practice and immerse yourself is best handled when you're younger.
I agree.
So that age, say from 16 to 20, or even a little younger than 16, if you can start, completely devote yourself to not worrying about the financial side or the career side. And that's harder said than done. But
I
if you
agree.
can, yeah, because everybody can, want to put on put the camera on YouTube or Instagram shredders. Everybody wants to put those licks out, right? But I get it. But if that can be at least balanced with a firm education in music, no matter what your discipline is, if it's a metal thing, fine. If it's a jazz thing, fine. If it's classical Indian music, fine. It's flamenco, I don't care anything. Production. If one can devote enough time, that's why people go to music school, because they don't have to think about all that stuff. Of course, they got to think of their student loans and what they're going to do after. But at least for a lot of their days, their frontal lobe is just immersed with musical problems,
That's
solving
presented
mu
in a good manner, and then don't have to go 10 places to find it.
Yeah, your professor is giving you this assignment, you go figure it out, you know? As simple as that. But so if one doesn't have the luxury of going to some of these places, there's a lot of online learning. There's a lot, even Berkeley and stuff, they offer these courses, or you could literally go type anything on YouTube and learn anything.
Exactly. Now we have the luxury of Google and all sorts of things.
Literally teach me how to play freaking anything by anybody and it's there. So it's like, or like the channels is just give out information. What if you can, so if one thinks of it like, okay, I'm going to get my skill sets up to an international level, not just to a local or domestic level, to an international level. I often find, and I was in Istanbul, Turkey, picking up my guitar. And because my guitar maker is from Eskişehir, Turkey.
The back one?
It's funny. My main one, which you never
Oh,
asked me
I thought
about.
this. I thought this
This is
one
my
was keys. Oh, that's tree of life inlay. And that this one is a Pliny thingy. This
Yeah,
Mooney.
well,
I love it.
for me it's more like Shiva, but yeah, okay.
Shiva. Right. Oh,
Yeah,
right, right,
but
right.
yeah, this so when I tend to think that a lot of guitar players, especially from our part of the world, and it's like I saw the same thing in Turkey. And I'm going to say this very carefully. Maybe not your generation, but then I've just seen this, that there seems to be a thought that American guitar players or Western guitar players are just better. There seems to be this chip on the block. There seems to be slightly lower self-esteem that I've seen. And when I was picking up my guitar in Istanbul, I remember this Turkish kid was in the store, and he wouldn't even want to play a lick around me. He's like, "Oh, you're from New York. I can't play around you because you guys are just better." I'm like, "Where does this come from?" He's like, "Yeah, because a 12-year-old American guitar player is better than any Turkish guitar player that's 25 years old." And I've heard these same things in India as well, you know. And fine, on the other side, if you flip the coin, you'll hear Western musicians that play sitars and sarods. They'll tell you, "Oh, like a 10-year-old kid from Calcutta will play better sarod," than so these things exist. But the guitar
Stereotypes.
is a universal there.
Hmm.
But the guitar itself is a universal instrument. I mean, maybe not this one. This one's crazy. But generally, a Les Paul is a Les Paul, whether it's in China or in Calcutta or in Turkey or in London or in freaking Kansas. It's a Les Paul. The instruments like sitar, sarod, and all that are so culturally specific. They play Indian, but guitar is that's why it's the greatest instrument in the world. It's just it's the most universal instrument.
Dynamic as
You know,
fuck.
Yeah, exactly. You can pick it up and play simple campfire songs with your buddies, right? Just simple songs, a G chord and a C chord, or you can play the most crazy ass music, or you can play
Hmm.
entire Rag Yaman Kadar Teen Tal for 2 hours on this thing. You know, if so the guitar can do it all. The important thing is to first navigate the instrument and be really clear about your choices. The you know Every time I've met some of the world's greatest guitar players, and I've been very lucky. I was backstage with Pat Metheny,
Oh
when
my god.
he was doing, and we were
Insane jazz
talking.
guitar player. Insane.
I mean, he's like an American Mozart, composer, everything.
Basically, right.
Um, I asked him like, Pat, like, what was it that did you know you wanted to do exactly the things you did when you were 20? He's like, yeah, Anupam, I knew exactly. This is who I want to be. This is where I want to go. This is where I see
So he had
myself.
that
He knew at 12.
vision.
Yeah. Yeah. It's ve But it was not like it was some divine intervention. He thought about it.
Exactly.
He put his mind thought about it. So because also what happens in India a lot of times, or places where Western music is still emerging.
Hmm.
You like say if you're studying Sarod, immediately you have the choice, okay, I'll study Mayhar Gharana, or I'll study Amjad Ali Khan Sahib style. I'll study Buddhadev Das Gupta style. There's a clear path. You go in that. But guitar, like where do you go? It's like, what do you do with it? You have to kind of do your own thing, right? And it's not like you're gonna go to jazz school and then sit with a Metheny or a Schofield. You gotta be that guy yourself. So get
Exactly.
your skill sets, get your skill sets really good. Then comes the part of navigating the music industry. And like you said, the AI and Spotify and streaming and the unfair practices of streaming platforms that do not pay artists fairly, and how music publishing has really no money anymore and live music is where we survive. And even that could change if, holograms replace real artists. That's happening. Hologram technology. You can sit
Right.
in your home. Sorry, I don't know, my strobe light died. But you can sit in your home and just watch a concert and you don't have to leave your couch.
Right.
And it's like, so especially here in New York, because we're so spoiled. Every night they're amazing bands, the jazz artists. People just don't want to go out because it's like, all right, I'll catch this next week, you know.
Or
But
they are like in their
it's
VR
like,
headsets.
yeah. So in that, you have to be again really clear in what you want from a career in music, because in the world of DIY at all, like imagine if you were a high level athlete. Your job is to be LeBron James, or your job is to be Virat Kohli, or, whoever. Your job is to be this really high level athlete. You would never be doing your own licks on Instagram or putting out a YouTube channel or trying to hustle people or trying to sell your tickets. You would have a coach, a support system, and advertising. You show up on the court and you make three pointers. Your job is to be Michael Jordan. But the problem in our industry is that you got to be the Michael Jordan. You got to be your own manager. You got to be your own record label. You got to be your own podcaster. You got to be your own merch seller. You got to be your own publisher. So
Producer, mixer, sound
what is that?
engineer, everything.
Your sound engineer, yeah, cook, chef, driver. So it's like, uh, but then it's not an easy business. You have to be a little crazy to be in this business. You have to be a little crazy to be in this business. But if you love music, then you'll figure all these other things out. Look, man, nobody can stop a fantastic guitar player, or a fantastic
Simple.
singer, fantastic drummer.
Hmm.
Nobody can stop your
They'll do
talent
what
in
they
the end
have
of
to
the day,
do.
and they will do what they have to do. They've got to have a lot of problems that might come their way, whether it's financial or cultural or business or, mercantile, but they will figure it out. And the good ones always do. And like Eddie Van Halen used to say, you just got to keep playing. Don't quit playing. You always
Exactly.
have to play.
Hmm.
And then whatever this, if you don't like an environment you're in musically, move somewhere. I didn't like the music scene in Bombay. I moved.
Simple.
Going back to
Right.
that first question, I thought Bollywood was not for me, and advertising and jingles and my abilities needed a bigger stage and arena, and I knew exactly where I wanted to go, and New York was it. And it's been home. I would have never come up with this instrument if I lived in Bombay. I would have been too caught up
I
in trying
agree.
to trying to pay
Hmm.
bills and trying to make a hustle. You know, the luxury to invent something. That takes an environment that's conducive. And I'm not knocking on the music scene in Bombay. Bombay made me and shaped me who I am. But I was one of the lucky ones that could go out there and play at the Lincoln Center or, work with all these. It's because I knew I wanted that. So if you don't like an
Hmm.
environment, change it. And it was hard when I came here. I'm not made of money or anything. It was fucking hard. And it was with the Sarod initially I got my foot through the door. And then after that,
Hmm.
I bust my guitar out. Like, oh, he can do that too. So it's like, whatever it takes. If you don't like that environment, change it. Go find your like minded tribe, your people that you can connect with, and support them, and they will support you. And only through this organic ecosystem of musicians and building a community will it survive. If you look at any music scene, it's
Hmm.
all small silos. It
Correct.
might look
Small
like a
communities.
big
Hmm.
pool. Yeah, but I've seen it even on the highest level jazz scene, the highest level. It's all people that know each other and work with each other. That ecosystem. Even the metal thing is an ecosystem, you know, at the highest level. So try to find yourself in whatever ecosystem you think you fit in, because you can't do it in isolation. And
Right.
certainly streaming companies and the record labels, they're not your friend. You
Any
know,
day.
you know. So if you learn enough about the business of how publishing works, how royalties work, how
And
merch
licensing and all that.
licensing, all of that stuff, if you at least have a decent enough handle on it, then you can put something together. If you're an independent musician, of course you can, become a part of the film industry or the ad industry, and that ecosystem itself will provide you the tools and, the wherewithal. But if as an independent creative artist,
Independent creative artist, right? I
even
like
if you're,
that label.
yeah, like I just got signed, but even nobody's telling me what to do. I'll do exactly what I want to do. So that's what I mean by independent. Independence in my creativity. There's no producer telling me make a song like this. So there's no ad guy telling me I want a 2-minute jingle about this underwear.
Where
I'll
did
do art.
underwear come from?
If you're doing an ad, you're doing an ad, right?
Right, simple.
So that's what I think. I mean, but then I feel like I go back to that Pat Metheny advice of know exactly what you want. You know, if and try to think about it and try to make your life choices because it'll give you that. If you stick around, it'll give you that. It might be slow, it might be overnight, it might be perfect situation, right time, wrong time, all of these things, life has its own way of playing out. But if you start to focus even on a subconscious level, what I think Steve Vai called it visualization.
I agree.
Yeah. If you start to visualize your goals, it'll manifest. I have seen it in my own life. I'm a strong believer in visualization. And I really wish my school teachers taught me that. They never did, because our education system sometimes can be very limiting to us. My dad taught me that. He's like, you visualize what you think your life should
And
be,
leave the rest of the world out.
and you'll get there. You're hungry, you're going to get up and open the fridge, right? You're going to find food.
Exactly.
Okay?
You should be just hungry
Try-
enough.
It'll drive you to do things.
I agree. Such a lovely note to end on. To be very honest with you. With the people for watching, this is Mr. Anupam Shobhakar for you. No, I shouldn't describe a person like this. You can just stream his music and what work he has done. But, sir, I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking an incredible amount of time out and joining in for this
pleasure.
because you are busy all the time. And thank you for sharing your wisdom to.
It's all good. It's all good. No, Suparna, thank you so much.
Thank
My
you so
pleasure.
much for the entire wisdom
I-
you shared.
I wish you all the best with your podcast, and I hope it really grows into this amazing channel, and you have more than 1 million followers, and I hope you're the best with your music and with your guitar playing. And
But I just for the people, I would say I'll leave all the links in the description of Sir. But please check them out. Listen to his band. Listen to his projects. You will come to know what he as a person is through his music, I suppose. Thank you so much. It was
my
a
pleasure, dude.
kind of a life-changing experience for me personally.
Aw,
I don't know about people who are hearing it.
That's it.
But thank you so much. I hope to connect with you very soon once anything, maybe another album comes out.
When I see you in India, I'll buy you a beer or something. How about that?
People, Anupam Shobhakar for you. It's any day lovely.
All right, dude.
Thank you so much.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
man. Take
Have a
care.
perfect day ahead.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Take care. Bye bye.
Well, with that, we end this podcast session. Thank you so much for all who are still sticking out till the end. I hope you got to learn something. Once again, please don't get tired of your social media addiction. Instead, give us a like, share this video with someone you think it might help. And once again, thank you very much for watching. Cheers.